Alright, so I know last video I said I was done with the floor, but I kind of wasn't done with the floor because over the next couple of days we started looking at it in a little bit more detail and decided that we weren't really happy with how the finish went. I'll insert some pictures here. There was some spots where the clear coat wasn't really distributed very well and there was exposed flake in some areas, and I wasn't really happy about it because I could like dig my finger underneath some of the flake and peel the flake up. So we decided we were going to do a second coat. We don't know what happened, if it wasn't enough material to cover it or if we just applied it wrong or whatever. We don't feel like there was enough material. That's kind of our hunch. But either way, we did a second coat now. So we had to re-sand the whole thing, which was kind of annoying because there's so much texture in the floor that I couldn't just use a sander or anything like that, or even like a floor sander, because you're just going to be catching the top of all of the texture. So I ended up using a brush, and it took me probably over 10 hours. I used a brush on a drill and then just sat there and kind of went over the whole damn floor, and then I went over the top with a sander and got everything scuffed down to about a 120 grit just to take the shine off, and then we recoated everything with another 4 gallons of the clear. And then we also added some grit into the clear. So the first one didn't have grit, it just had the texture. So now we added another 4 gallons. So there's a total of 8 gallons of the clear coat epoxy on here, and there's a whole bunch of grit in the clear. So here's what it looks like now. So that's kind of what we ended up with now. So it looks a lot better. We don't really have any of the open, dry brush spots anymore, and you can really see, might be a little hard to see there, but you can actually see the grit, like the little sand grit inside of it, and the overall texture is a lot smoother. So there was a comment on the last video about the texture of the floor and being able to roll a wheel dolly on it and like a floor jack and stuff. The floor jack would have been fine, I'm sure, but the wheel dolly might be a different scenario. So this is smoother now, but it does have the grit. It's not as textured, so it should be easier to roll a wheel dolly on. And like I said, it does have a little bit more grit in it to grab the feet. So if we kind of look at how the gloss and the texture looks on this one, and I'll insert the other picture from this approximate angle, where there's no brush marks or anything in here now, and you can tell that everything was distributed a lot more evenly, and it was able to kind of settle in, and it looks like it's all one blended unit now, and there's no brush marks or anything weird going on. So that's what the texture and the grit looks like on the top of the step. We do have to go back and touch up some of the paint here, but overall I feel a lot better about this. It looks a lot better. It's smoother, should be easier to roll stuff on, but it's not slippery. I'm sure it's going to be a little bit slick. It's going to be more slick than just bare concrete, obviously, but it doesn't have so much texture in it that I shouldn't be able to roll stuff, but it has just enough there and the grit in it that it should be pretty nice and well protected. So that's kind of the update on that. That's why I haven't really been getting stuff done or getting stuff back in the garage yet. This is going to be another 5 to 7 days full cure now, so probably Friday we're going to start moving stuff back into the garage, and then I'll start thinking of like other videos and stuff that I can do. In the meantime, sucks that it took another week, 2 weeks to sand it and then wait for the other time, but I think it was the right decision to actually go through and get it done and do it a little bit better than it was. So I know I would have been thinking about that all the time, like if that flake was exposed, and I just wouldn't have been happy with it. So now the floor has 3 gallons of epoxy, about 60 pounds of flake, and then 8 gallons of clear coat epoxy over the top of it. So it's pretty thick, it's nice and strong. I feel like the corners inside all of the trim were beefed up pretty nicely, because that's where all the caulking and everything was underneath it. Should be good there. Should hold water also very well. And if I get, winter vehicles in here and I got snow melting off and it does run towards the wall, it shouldn't be soaking into the wall, where I feel like that was an issue that we had before. But I'll shut up and get this video up and maybe start working on some other stuff outside of the garage.